Good morning. I'm joining in here today from a coffee shop, a local coffee shop in town. It's a great place to study and to do some work. It's at Live It thrift store behind it called the Bridge Coffee House. If you're locally in the Seymour area, would encourage you to come by and give it a try. I'm here today continuing my series of short messages on why I am not. If you've tuned in before, you've found out why I am not a conservative. Will not be labeled a conservative because conservatives are traditionalists, and traditionalists by their very nature do not like to change. And my whole ministry I fought against traditionalists in the church. The Pharisees were traditionalists, and Jesus, being a radical, was most of the time at odds with them. Likewise, you found out why I will not be labeled a liberal or progressive, and I gave you various reasons why that would not be what I am either, because I cannot be labeled that way because of the way they believe. But today I wanted to go with one that's a hot button topic lately, and that is why I am not a socialist. Why am I not a socialist? Well, no doubt the scripture teaches us to care for those who are poor and to care for those who are needy. Likewise, the scripture teaches us that if we have, that we should not hoard, nor should we rely on riches, but instead we ought to be generous to those around us. There are numerous scriptures that warn against the sin of greed. Greed is a sin that we must war against, and it has very sinful effects. The overall teaching of Scripture really is contentment with godliness is great gain. It gives money, Scripture does, really a sense of amorality. Money is neither good nor is money evil. It lies really in what you choose to do with it. Jesus admonished us to be givers and to be cheerful givers at that. To volunteer to sacrifice yourself for someone else, or to sacrifice your need for the needs of others, is one of the greatest acts of true love. Jesus said that no love is greater than this, than a man would lay down his life for his friends. To serve others above yourself is truly Christ-like. But are Christians socialists? Would that be an accurate definition that we could espouse to? Well, many people go to Acts chapter 2, verse 44 through 47. Let me read this for you. It says, "Now all who believed were together and had all things in common, and divided them among all, as anyone had need. So continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved." Does this scripture suggest that the early church were really socialists who surrendered their right to private ownership in order to, for a governing body, say the apostles, to distribute these things to people who were perhaps less fortunate? Is that what this scripture teaches? Well, the answer lies in one little word, the word "their." Did you catch that word? Their property, their items. Their, you see, is a possessive pronoun. It indicates who owns something, and the ownership belonged to the people. In other words, the people gave voluntarily. They were not forced to give. Later in Acts chapter 4, we find that Barnabas gives a parcel of land, sells it, and lays it at the apostles' feet. Was he forced to do that? No. He wasn't even asked to do that. The idea of giving always came from the giver. It was not sequestered by the apostles, nor was it forced by the apostles. No, people gave out of the goodness of their heart. Now, a socialist, by definition, takes from those that they deem have too much in order to give to those they deem have too little. But it's always up to them to take and to distribute. This encourages two negative results that I see. Number one, the one who loses also loses the incentive to produce. Why should I produce more if they're going to take it away from me? And so it de-incentivizes people to work. Secondly, the one who receives or gains from those who give to them loses incentive to work. Also, because why should I work if they're just going to give me whatever I need? And so socialism at its heart and at its core, both to the person who is taken away from, and to the person who gives, loses the incentive to work. Now, the Apostle Paul spoke clearly to this in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 10. After telling them that the day of the Lord was coming and that the rapture of the church was at hand, many of the church of Thessalonica said, we're just going to quit our jobs and just sit around and wait for the Lord to come. And so Paul wrote another letter immediately following 1 Thessalonians, that's 2 Thessalonians, and in chapter 3, verse 10, he says this, we commanded you this, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. In other words, the Apostle Paul was very much incentivizing people to work and produce. Therefore, nowhere, let me say that again, nowhere in the Bible is it commanded or encouraged for a governing body, be it a church body or a political body, to take from the rich and give to the poor, the old Robin Hood effect. Rather, it's encouraged for all of us to be thoughtful and generous givers, to be thoughtful of others and be willing to sacrifice. The truth is, there's always going to be somebody better off than you are, and there's always going to be somebody worse off than you are. Therefore, I'm categorically, completely and totally not a socialist, and neither was Jesus. I hope you learned something today, and I thank you for joining me. Remember, today, no matter what you label yourself, don't only ask God for a blessing, but look for a way to be a blessing today. For being a blessing is not something that God forces you to do, but He asks you to do. And it comes with a promise that if you will be a blessing, God will certainly bless you. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.